Good evening, guys, and welcome to interview preparation session, which is conducting by 360 DG And today we'll just discuss some of the questions which have been asked in previous in some of the interviews and all. So as of now, uh, the first question is: does Python supports multiple inheritance? So if it supports, why? If it doesn't support, and why it doesn't support. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Okay. Yeah. As we look into this, does Python support multiple inheritance? Yeah, multiple inheritance, which means that a class can be derived from more than one parent class, which is called as an multiple inheritance. So this Python, it does support multiple inheritance, unlike Java. Okay, as we jump into the next question, what is a polymorphism in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this, what is polymorphism in Python? Polymorphism means the ability to take multiple forms, which means taking the multiple forms in a single take itself. So, for instances, if the parent class has a method named ABC, then the child class also can have a method with the same name called ABC, having its own parameters and variables. Python allows polymorphism, which means there are two classes, right? Parent class and child class. Parent class cannot allow each and every variables and parameters which does the child class have, but child class can take all the parameters which are present in the parent class. Okay. Yes, we use a polymorphism in this Python. Yes, Nidhi Sharma, you are right. Okay. So as we jump into the next question, define encapsulation in Python. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now as we look into this, define encapsulation in Python. Encapsulation, which means binding the code and the data together, which means combining both the code and data together. A Python class is an example for this encapsulation technique. Okay. As we jump into the next question, how do you do data abstraction in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. As we look into this, how do this data abstraction is done in Python? This data abstraction is providing only the required details and hides the implementation from the world, which means it directly just shows us the required details, and it hides the implementation parts from this. So it can be achieved in Python by using interfaces and abstract classes. So this is how the abstraction works in Python. So as we jump into the next question, how to create an empty class in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, how to create an empty class in Python. An empty class is a class that does not have any code defined within the block, which means that is totally an empty block where nothing like codes, sets, dictionaries, list, suppose anything, nothing has been mentioned in that block. It can be created using the pass keyword. However, you can create objects of these classes outside the class itself, which means you can create these objects outside the class, not inside the class, only outside the class itself. And in Python, this pass command does nothing. When it's executed, it's a null statement. Pass command is basically nothing but a null statement. It's just used to create this. It's just used by for this pass keyword. It's used to create just this blank code, which is an empty class. So as we jump into the next question, what does an object do? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer in a minute. Now, as we look into this, how does this object function works on? So it basically returns an some kind of featureless objects that is a base for all classes, and also it does not take any parameters. It directly just returns the featureless objects for the base some of the base classes. That's how it works. So as we jump into the next question, what is map function in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, what does this map function in Python? So this map function, it executes the functions given as a first argument on all the elements of the iterable, which means it also gives at the given at the second argument. If the function given takes is taken more than one argument, then many iterables are given. So there are some more functions. There were some more functions which were being used regarding this math function. So as we jump into the next question, is Python NumPy better than list? So if yes, if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Now, as we look into this, there is Python NumPy better than list? Yes. We use this Python NumPy array instead of some list because of it has some list memory. It is fast and it is convenient. So because of these reasons, we mostly prefer this. Okay. So as we jump into the next question, how do you make 3D plots or visualizations using NumPy or SciPy function? So if anyone knows the answer, this is a library which we use in Python. So by using these libraries, how can we make a 3D plot or visualization techniques by using this library itself? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, like 2D plotting and 3D graphics is beyond the scopes of this NumPy and SciPy. But just as in 2D cases, packages exist like that integrate with NumPy. Some of the packages will be existing with integrating with this NumPy function library. So Matplotlib, this provides the basic 3D plotting in the mplot 3D sub packages. So whereas this Mayavi, it provides a wide range of high quality 3D visualization features for utilizing the powerful BTK engine, which means NumPy is used for 2D packages, whereas in Matplotlib we can do 3D plottings, but it do have a sub package called mplot 3D sub package. So by which we'll get a high quality and 3D visualization features by using this BTK engine, powerful BTK engine. So as we jump into the next question, how do you understand? What do you understand by reindexing in pandas? So what is this reindexing means? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, what do you understand by this re-indexing in pandas? So, re-indexing, it is a process of conforming a data frame, which means to a new indexes with optional filling logic. If the values are missing in the previous index, then NA values, which means the none values, is located in that location. So, a new object is written unless a new index is produced. That is almost equivalent to a current one. The copy value is set to false. Okay, the copy value is set to false. So if there are any missing values, they will be replaced with a null value, which is NA, which are placed in that locations. And this is also used for changing the index of rows and columns in the database. So we can even change those rows and columns of the particular point which where we if we want to change. So as we jump into the next question, define GIL. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this GIL stands for Global Interpreter Lock. So this is a mutex used for limiting access to Python objects, which means there are a number of objects which we use in Python, right? So this basically it gives limits to those Python objects and aids to effective thread synchronization by avoiding these deadlocks. So this GIL helps in achieving some multitasking and not parallel computing. It just achieves those multitasking functions. So as we jump into the next question, differentiate between the dead and shallow copies. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this differences between the deep and shallow copies. Yeah, shallow copies they does the task of creating new objects and storing the references of the original items, which means they create a new objects and stores the references of the original elements. So this does not undergo any recursion to create copies of any nested objects. So it just copies the reference details of those nested objects. So as we come across these deep copies create an independent and a new copy of an object and even copies all the nested objects of the original elements recursively. Okay, that's what the difference between this deep and shallow copies. As we jump into the next question, this is a multiple choice question, guys. So, which of the following statement creates a dictionary? So, these were the four options I've been given you. So, if anyone knows the answer, please try to ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. So, as we look into this, and the option is B, C, and D. Dictionaries are created by specifying keys and values. For this, all these three options, we have been specified these keys and values. So these were three options. So as we jump into the next question, which one of this is floor division? Yeah. If any, so these were the options for what might be the representation for this floor division. So if anyone knows the answer, ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. as we look into this, and here the option is B. So for float division, so if we get any float values while dividing any number, then we use this float division. So by using this float division, it neglects those decimal values and it directly gives us a single value. Okay. So as we jump into the next question, what is the maximum possible length of an identifier? What is the maximum length for it? 31 characters, 63, 79, and none of this. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. The maximum length of this identifier is none of the above, because this identifier can be of any kind of length. Okay, as we jump into the next question, what are local variable names beginning with an underscore or discourage? So and the options are, they are used to indicate a private variable of a class, they confuse to interpreter, they are used to indicate global variables, and they slow down the execution. So yeah, if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this option here, there are used to indicate private variables of a class. As Python has no concept of private variables, and these leading underscores are used to indicate variables that must not be accessed from outside the class, which means they can be only accessed the class from the inside class parts. Okay. So what are Python libraries? Name few of them. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, I think most of you people might know this regarding these libraries. So Python libraries are a collection of Python packages, and some of the majorly used Python libraries are NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Skitlearn, and there are many more libraries, but I've been mentioning only this. There are n number of libraries which were very useful for us in Python. Okay, guys. So as we jump into the next question, what is split used for? What is this split function is used for in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this split method is used to separate a given string in Python. That's it. It they directly used to separate a given string in Python. So as we jump into the next question, what is type conversion in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. As we look into this type conversion refers to conversion of data from one type to another type, which means like converts the data type into integer type, float, ordinal, hexagonal, octagonal, tuple, set, list, dictionary, string, which means converting one form of data type into another data type. Another, that's it. Which means float. It directly converts the data type into float type. Ordinal converts the data type into integer. Hexa, it converts integer into hexadecimal. Octagon, it converts the integer to octal. Tuple, this function is used to convert to a tuple. Set, convert into a set. List converts the data type to a list type. Dictionary, it converts tuple of orders with some keywords and values into a dictionary, and strings are used to convert integer into a string. So as we jump into the next question, what is pickling and unpickling? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. So yeah, as we look into this, pickle module accepts any Python objects and converts it into a string representation and dumps it into a file by using a dump function. This process is called pickling. while the process of retrieving, which means retrieving the original Python object from the stored strings, which is called as unpick. So this is how the pickling and unpickling is used for. So that's it for the day, guys. Hope this session is helpful to you, and we'll meet in another session. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, guys. Have a great day.